You are already familiar and know that it's exactly 50 years ago that A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami came to America on the order of the spiritual master and the predecessor acharyas to spread this culture of Krishna consciousness to the Western English-speaking world. And it was 50 years ago that he actually came and set foot in America. And despite the great difficulty he had, he was on a freighter, the Jaladuta. Freighter is not a luxury ocean liner.
Cargo ship.
A freighter is a cargo ship. And not only is there not very nice accommodation, cabins and so on, but it's a very rough ride, just the way the ship is, because it's carrying cargo. And he had 2 heart attacks. Before he even got to the Atlantic Ocean, he had 2 heart attacks. He felt dizziness and sickness. And he thought that if he had a 3rd heart attack, he would certainly not survive. And he had not even set out into the Atlantic yet. He was just coming from Calcutta around Kanyakumari, which is known as today, to Mumbai. In Mumbai, his books were loaded on board, and then they set out to the open sea, the Atlantic. And the Atlantic Ocean is a very fierce ocean. But Krishna came to him in a dream and told him, Krishna was rowing the boat, and he said, "Do not worry, I'm taking charge of the boat." And that voyage from India to New York to Boston, he first landed in Boston, was the smoothest ride on the ship that Captain Pandya had seen in his 3-decade career of crossing back and forth across the Atlantic. And his wife said, "Because you were here, Krishna made the ride smooth." And Prabhupada said, "Yes, it was the smoothest trip in 30 years' experience." So, now, this Leela Amrita, this is the biography of Srila Prabhupada. There are many biographies. In fact, we're about to submit to the Guinness's Book of Records that there are more biographies and more things written about A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami in a short 50-year period of his than any other person. Think of a very famous person. Gandhi. Think of another very famous person. Beethoven. I used to play piano. Think of another famous person.
Mandela.
Wayne Gretzky. You take any famous person, the one who has the most biographies written about them is so far, right now, is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. But of all the biographies, one is called the Leela Amrita, and it's his full biography from his birth to his departure. Everything is complete. Of course, when you have a pure devotee, even if you have Ananta Shesha speaking his glories, eternally, you can never come to the end of his glories. And this is the same with Bhaktivedanta Swami. To read the Bhagavad Gita, to read the Srimad Bhagavatam, to read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, and to read the Prabhupada Leela Amrita, there's no difference. It's all pure transcendental literature. We should not make the mistake, the 8th offense, and think that this Leela Amrita, 8th offense is to blaspheme Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. So this Leela Amrita, we should not think it's an ordinary book because it was written by some of Prabhupada's disciples. No, this was divinely empowered presentation to glorify Krishna's most significant disciple, devotee, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So, today, I'm going to just read from the Leela Amrita. I may expand a little bit, but I thought we could read a little bit because it's written so nicely. I would like you to try to get just a little taste of how wonderful this literature is. And if you get a little taste, my humble request is to please, go out and get a copy and read the whole thing. It's this thick. It's a full biography of one of many. So Prabhupada has now just crossed the ocean, and now he's come to America. And this is where we're picking up. He was now in America. He was in a major American city, rich with billions, populated with millions, and determined to stay that way, the way it was. Prabhupada saw Boston from the viewpoint of a pure devotee of Krishna. He saw the hellish city life. People dedicated to the illusion of material happiness. All his dedication and training moved him to give these people the transcendental knowledge and saving grace of Krishna consciousness. Yet, he was feeling weak, lowly, and unable to help them on his own. He was but an, as he put it, an insignificant beggar with no money. He left India, he had 40 rupees. 40 rupees. Now the interesting thing is you show up in America or Canada with 40 rupees, and you go to the bank and ask them to give you Canadian dollars, they'll laugh at you. You can't even exchange your 40 rupees into Canadian dollars. It's not significant enough. You couldn't even exchange it. So he came with nothing. He had barely survived 2 heart attacks at sea. He spoke a different language. He dressed strangely. Yet he had come to tell people to give up meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling, and to teach them to worship Lord Krishna, who to them was a mythical Hindu god. What would he be able to accomplish? Some strange dressed person doesn't even speak the language, and he's coming to tell you, my dear friends, in America, which is the capital of meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex. Grade A Canada beef, the government certifies it. Meat eating. Alberta Liquor Board, the government certifies it. Intoxication. Casinos, government certified. Gambling. This is what the people do. This is their culture. Please change your culture and take to this culture. Give up meat eating. Give up intoxication. Who's going to listen to him? Right? Would you listen to him? I mean, yeah, of course, but it's like a strange fellow. Doesn't even speak my language. Who are you? Some nonsense old man. Who's interested in you? And he came to change that. Helplessly, he spoke his heart directly to God. I wish that you may deliver them. I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them. And for convincing them, he would trust in the power of God's holy name and in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This transcendental sound would clean away any desire for material enjoyment from their hearts and awaken love and service to Krishna. On the streets of Boston, Prabhupada was aware of the power of ignorance and passion that dominated the city. But he had faith in the transcendental process. He was tiny, but God was infinite. And God was Krishna, his dear friend. On the 19th of September, what's the date today? 19th of September, 50 years ago today, the Jaladuta sailed into New York Harbor and docked at Brooklyn Pier at 17th Street. Srila Prabhupada saw the awesome Manhattan skyline, the Empire State Building, and like millions of visitors and immigrants in the past, the Statue of Liberty. Srila Prabhupada was dressed appropriately for a resident of Vrindavan. He wore kantimala, neck beads, and a simple cotton dhoti. He carried japamala, chanting beads, and an old chadar or shawl. His complexion was golden. His head was shaven, sika in the back. His forehead decorated with the whitish Vaishnav tilak. He wore pointed white rubber slippers, not uncommon for sadhus in India. But who in New York had ever seen or dreamed of anyone appearing like this Vaishnava? He was possibly the first Vaishnav sannyasi to arrive in New York with uncompromised appearance, of course. New Yorkers have an expertise in not giving much attention to any kind of strange new arrival. Because New York is very cosmopolitan, they see this, they see that, so they don't, you know, oh, okay, just another strange fellow. Srila Prabhupada was on his own. He had a sponsor, Mr. Agrawal, somewhere in Pennsylvania. Surely someone would be here to greet him, although he had little idea of what to do as he walked off the ship onto the pier. Quote, "I did not know whether to turn left or right." He passed through the dockside formalities and was met by a representative from Traveler's Aid sent by the Agrawals in Pennsylvania, who offered to take him to the Scindia ticket office in Manhattan to book his return passage to India. He gets off the boat. "My dear Swamiji, please come here. Please book your ticket back. Thank you very much." He had a 3-month visa. At the Scindia office, Prabhupada spoke with the ticket agent, Joseph Forrester, who was impressed by the unusual passenger's Vaishnava appearance, his light luggage, and